Welcome everyone. My name is Andrew, the founder of Charts Focus One, and this is the week of September 11th through 15th. With that, let's take a look at our first name. So Tesla here has been showing some great relative strength. If you take a look on the weekly time frame, let me take out my lines here. We created a pretty textbook uptrend of higher highs and higher lows. And we've been doing this since we bottomed out since the start of this year. And ever since we bottomed out at the start of this year, we have been in a nice uptrend higher. And right now, we're in a period of consolidation that we saw last time over here before we made our second leg up higher. So now the question is, can we make another third leg higher after this consolidation is over? Well, let's take a look into the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame here, we have this descending resistance trend line that I've been keeping an eye on for the past couple of weeks and past couple of months. So if you take a look at this descending resistance trend line, it sort of looks like a neckline is forming for a potential inverted head and shoulders chart pattern. Okay, so if you guys don't see it, here it is. We have our inverted left shoulder, okay, and we have our very sharp looking inverted head, and we are currently forming our inverted right shoulder. So this is kind of the macro perspective, on the daily time frame. However, when we kind of go down into the details here, okay, so far it looks like we have rejected this descending level of resistance multiple times. And on top of that, we haven't been able to consistently stay over the daily 50 SMA, my dark blue line here that I'm tracing with my mouse cursor. And so with last Friday's move lower and this inverted hammer candlestick, there is a good chance that we won't even finish forming the right inverted shoulder here, and we might just plunge all the way back down to hit 239 and possibly even 230. Now, optimistically though, okay, we're looking at this name to the long side. All right, and here is the number one reason why. So if you take a look on the 2-hour time frame now, we have this nice bull flag forming on the intraday. And we have a lot of good volume spikes here, which means this name is getting very, very busy, especially after that nice V-shaped recovery that we saw in this name early into September and late into August as well, actually. So with Tesla forming a very nice intraday bull flag here, there's a possibility that we can see another move up higher, and that could potentially be over 252. Okay, so if you guys go back to the daily time frame, okay, we can see an possible entry point over 252, or if you guys want to avoid all that volatility that you guys just saw up and down on the intraday time frame, on the 2-hour time frame, you guys can choose to long this name once we're able to get back over 261.18, which was the most recent pivot high point. Okay, right over here. And so our kind of confirmation entry point will be 261.20 to the long side, right? Now, there's one thing that I want to mention. There is a kind of a strange relationship going on with Tesla and the other legacy automakers who are also involved in the EV industry. So, if you guys notice here, Tesla has been going up for this entire year. as I've mentioned, on the weekly time frame. And then last Friday, we had this inverted hammer candlestick to the downside. Now, if we keep that in mind and take a look at Ford, you can easily tell that Ford has been having a pretty rough year. And this is one of the major legacy automakers that have recently gotten involved in the EV industry. Now, I want you guys to take a look on the candlestick that was made last Friday. So Ford had a major run up and major squeeze to the upside when it was starting to make lower highs and lower lows. And that potentially could have led to the next leg down for Ford. But on Friday, we got this nice move up higher backed up by volume. Okay, so this is Ford. Now let's take a look at General Motors. So GM has also happened having a pretty rough and quite volatile year. So here's where GM started this year, right around here. And now we are red for this year off of Friday's close. However, if you take a look at last Thursday's and Friday's price action, you can clearly tell that we've been on a nice move back to the upside, even if GM is making lower highs and lower lows, just like how Ford was doing. So GM here also had a nice volume-backed pivot right off of this 32 whole number level and moved up higher into the close on Friday. So if you guys are noticing something here, it looks like Ford and GM are having some sort of an inverted or inverse relationship to Tesla. So with GM and Ford practically at their low points for this entire year, and for the fact that they're both at demand areas on their respective daily and weekly time frames, there's a good chance that Ford and GM or General Motors can be seeing a nice uptrend for this entire full trading week, which can make Tesla move back to the downside. And if that does happen, then those targets that I've told you guys earlier, 239 and 230, can definitely be hit. And we can definitely see a reason why last Friday we got increased volume and this bearish inverted hammer candlestick. Okay? And it can also give us a reason as to why Tesla was not able to break over the daily 50 SMA. All right? So make sure you guys keep that in mind when you're looking to long this name this week. Now, obviously, if Tesla recovers very quickly and we do decide to stay over the intraday bull flag ascending support trend line and pivot away from it, then we can get a nice entry point over 252, like I said earlier, or you guys can simply make a nice breakout entry over 261.20. All right. So our second name here is APPN. So this name, as I've said in the CFO Discord chat room, looks to be one of the easiest and one of the best trades going into this week. Why? Well, first of all, this name has already had a great breakout last Thursday with a great amount of volume. Okay? And even before the breakout occurred, we saw the price moving higher and higher right towards this massive descending resistance trend line that has been forming since mid-June of this year. And when the markets were pulling back for most of August here, we saw APPN having a very, very quick recovery back to the upside. So again, this name had a V-shaped recovery here, just like Tesla did, okay? And it was able to come right back to the most recent highs and then break out of those highs, creating newer highs, right? And thanks to Thursday's strong breakout, and again, that strong breakout was all in thanks to the increased buying and momentum that it saw right before its breakout over this descending level of resistance, this descending resistance trend line. Now, the reason why I say all of that, okay, so make sure you guys keep this in mind, all right, all of this, these technical points here. And the reason why I say this is the most easiest trade for this week and possibly the best trade for this week is that since we already had a breakout, we know that the price action and price trend is going to be bullish and to the upside. Now, I want you guys to take a look at this level here though. This $50 whole number level of resistance. This was the major horizontal level of resistance that we needed to break over after we broke out of this descending resistance trend line. Now, when we do tend to get a breakout like this, we tend to see the price coming back down, okay, and retesting that initial resistance level or that initial breakout level. So if that is true, and we apply that to this name, we could be seeing a pullback all the way back down to $50. But if that does occur, there's a huge risk to the bulls for us who are trying to long this name, because that means we're going to be wiping out more than half of the gains that was made on this initial breakout last Thursday. So what should we be focusing on then? Well, I have your answer. So instead of pulling all the way back down to the $50 whole number level of resistance, previous resistance, okay, and trying to turn it into a new level of support by retesting it and then bouncing on top of it, I would want this name to ideally create a small micro bull flag. And there are already signs that this name is about to create a nice bull flag. So if you take a look on the 2-hour time frame, we have been pulling back really nicely. And thanks to this very textbook pullback with consolidation mixed into it, we're about to hit the first SMA, my 10 SMA here on the 2-hour time frame. And so if we're able to retest it and bounce on top of it and continue to consolidate right over the 10 SMA, I am going to expect the 21 SMA on the 2-hour time frame here to catch up as well. And once the price has retested on the 21 SMA as well, then I'm going to be fully expecting by that time a bull flag to be formed. So if a bull flag is completely formed once we are completely retested the 2-hour 21 SMA here, the light blue line, and we're holding over this 2-hour 10 SMA here, the red line, then we will most likely have a bull flag for us to play a potential breakout from. And so if you guys go back on the daily time frame, this $53 level makes a lot more sense. So if we do decide to tightly consolidate right underneath $53, we will be able to see a nice breakout over 53 and potentially, so now we go on the weekly time frame, head right back into the turbulent area of 59.50 to around 57.50. Okay? And so, if you guys want to keep a nice, single price target for this name, $58 will be nice. Okay, that will give us a nice 1 to 5 textbook risk to reward ratio on this trade if we do see a nice long entry at $53. All right. Now, don't forget that APPN has also been on a nice textbook uptrend since the start of this year. However, it has gained a lot less ground compared to the other major stocks that have already lifted higher from its lows in the late 2022 and early 2023. So APPN is definitely a laggard as it continues to make a very, very nice broad base chart pattern, or just a simple double bottom chart pattern here. Okay, or if you guys want to be a bit more specific than just an overall double bottom chart pattern, we're also seeing a macro cup and handle chart pattern forming as well. So we have the rounding base here to form and act as the cup, and then the current consolidation that we just broke out of last Thursday as the handle. Okay, so if you add these two together, we have the cup and handle chart pattern, the macro cup and handle chart pattern on the weekly time frame. All right. Okay, so our last name is ADSK. So as you guys should already know by now, ADSK, let me just take out the lines here. ADSK has been forming this huge macro base for over a year now. So now it's a multi-year base chart pattern on the weekly time frame. So just as I've described with APPN being a laggard name, this one is a huge laggard name. It hasn't been able to break out of this very, very nice wedge-shaped base chart pattern, even just in this year when we had a nice bull market starting earlier into this year. So with that type of sluggishness on the price trend and share price, okay, there's a good chance that we can finally break out of this wedge chart pattern, especially because of the fact that the price has been getting tighter and tighter and tighter as we continue to play within the parameters set up by these two trend lines. One is a descending resistance trend line and one is an ascending support trend line. And so as we're getting closer and closer to that supposed converging point of these two trend lines, there's a great possibility that we can break out even before we get to that convergence point. Okay, and again, there is a good chance that we can continue to consolidate as well and continue to tighten up. But I think the higher probability here is that we can get a nice breakout. And in order to see the reason for that, we got to go back on the daily time frame. So after a great earnings report and a great earnings reaction, okay, if you guys take a look here, the initial earnings day reaction, we got a nice pullback. We even attempted to fill in the gap up that we got overnight. However, the most important day was after the earnings day reaction candlestick, because we completely retraced those losses that we made on that day when we pulled back, and while we're filling the gap, obviously, we continued the next few days after higher. And we were able to hit the previous pivot high points like 222.63 or 223.64, and then ultimately we made a higher high pivot point compared to these two pivot points at 224.26. And now obviously you guys can clearly see it here. We are forming a nice daily bull flag chart pattern. So I am completely expecting a breakout this week, And if we do see a breakout over this week, we can get a nice entry over this descending level of resistance, which could be around 220.50 to around 221. However, if you guys want to play an exact long entry, you can get a nice early entry at the bounce at 218.10, which has been the current support level for this bull flag chart pattern other than this ascending support trend line. And if you guys take a look at this level here, right over here, it was used as a level of resistance multiple times. And we saw a lot of sellers coming in once the price hit 218 and slightly above that. So with that in mind, for the fact that we're holding over 218 now, gives us confidence that whoever was selling at 218 is most likely gone. So with that type of bullish sentiment factored into this name, along with a nice bull flag chart pattern setting up on a daily time frame, we can see a nice breakout over this descending resistance trend line. Or you guys can completely wait for the complete consolidation and then grab an entry point over 224. Okay, so this is the level of resistance that we need to break out of to create another second leg higher. All right, and if you guys are wondering where the first leg is, well, it was right here. Okay, so after hitting that lower range from that weekly ascending support trend line that we just saw from that macro wedge based chart pattern, okay, we had this nice big reaction to the upside, most of it coming from the earnings reaction. And so that was our first leg up higher. And so if we do decide to break over 224, I am completely expecting ADSK to move up higher and higher, creating a nice impulsive second leg up higher. And once we do that, we should be able to hit 235, which has been a major level of resistance in the past. Okay, and it's also the highest pivot point when this descending resistance trend line started. All right, so 235 is the first pivot high point since this descending level of resistance trend line began. Okay, so that is my maximum price target. Now, if you guys want a more realistic price target, I would say 229.50 or around just 229, if you guys want to keep it simple, would be a nice target if we do see a great entry at 224. And that will also make it a nice textbook 1-to-5 risk to reward ratio trade. Okay, but if you guys get an entry point at 218, that means you guys be in profits at a greater amount compared to 224, obviously. All right, so that is it for the equities. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is pretty interesting here. So Bitcoin, after that huge news from the SEC, okay, we are back down. So Bitcoin has been now creating a nice bear flag on the weekly time frame. And we have been really just supporting this 25300 level. And that's the reason why I left it as a question. Do we head lower and break below $25,300? Because so far, for the past, I would say 3 weeks, okay, not including last week here, okay, these 3 weekly candlesticks, we have been staying over to $25,300. And we could have broken below it many times on any of these 3 weeks, but we didn't. So with a lot of bullish news overhead, possibly, especially after this SEC news and a huge win for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency lovers, there's a possibility that we can see another nice pop back to the upside and potentially back over $30,000. Okay, so that means we could be seeing a potential price flow that looks something like this. Okay, so if we're able to repeat what happened over here and over here, okay, then we can get a nice run up right over here as well. Okay, and if we do, then we can isolate the entire macro weekly chart pattern as a W chart pattern or simply a double bottom chart pattern. Alright, so that is it for the technical analysis video for this week. Hopefully everyone is working hard and trading smart, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. So good night, good luck, and stay safe.